I really didn't hate the finish on this buffet, but my client, aka my mom, wanted something different. She just loves the curves and the intricate details on this Dixie dresser, but the color was a little bit too bold for her. She has more neutral colors such as gray in her. And these are some pictures she found for inspiration for her piece. It's always extremely important to clean your piece really well prior to working on it. Even if your piece looks clean, there's definitely some dirt on there. Today I'm using simple green. There really wasn't a whole lot of repairs that needed to be made, but there was like a piece of wood missing off of the top. So I'm using a quick wood epoxy. It comes in a log and you just cut off what you need and then you mix it really well. And then I'm applying it to that piece of missing wood or veneer that is underneath of this gel stain. It dries really hard and it is sandable once it is dry. The current paint is adhered very well, so I will not be removing any of that. I'm using a latex paint and this is kind of old and thick, but it's okay. I'm going to thin it down and water it down with some water and mix that in really well. I want to make this a chalky type finish, so I'm mixing in some plaster of Paris. Again, I will not be removing any of the old finishes, and that includes this gel stain top. So I'm going to give it a good scuff sand with a low grit sandpaper and then clean it. My client does not want the teal. She wants shades of grays and browns. So I have to make sure I cover that all up. I will be making some more chalk paint with this color called Mountain Smoke. I'm adding some water and mixing that up really well into my paint and then adding some plaster of Paris. I don't have an exact recipe for this. I just kind of eyeball everything. I'm going to mix that plaster of Paris up in there really well until all the chunks are gone. Today I want it a little bit thicker, so I'm going to add more plaster of Paris and I'm going to make my own salt wash because I want a little bit of texture. So using a sea salt grinder, I'm just adding a few cranks into my paint mixture, then mixing that all up in it really well. Then I just kind of randomly tap and dab my paint on. I want to make sure I have those peaks and ridges. That way when I do my dry brushing will highlight all of that texture. Off camera, I added some Waverly chalk paint brand in the color called Cashew randomly here and there. This is just going to help layer my paint so that way my lighter colors pull through when I do my blending. Next, I'm using another Waverly chalk paint in the color called Sand, and I'm using a swirling motion with a soft bristled brush to start my blending process. Using the same brush as the sand color, I'm taking in some of that base color and blending the two colors together with that same exact paintbrush. I'm using small amounts of each paint so as to not oversaturate one or the other color and just get a really good, even and consistent blend. I do eventually start adding in some more colors such as that Mountain Smoke and some brown Waverly chalk paint, and I'm just kind of working that paint in, working it in together, blending it all up. My My mom asked for a faux marble top, so I'm using Dixie Belle's Sawmill Gravy as my base coat. I am doing a little bit of that Tanglewood Sue smush and moosh technique on my blending as well with my tapping, and I'm blending those two colors in together with the tapping. Or sometimes it's more than two colors. Sometimes I'm tapping 3 or 4 colors in together. I'm not doing a really controlled blend. It's kind of random and all over the place. I am going to pour about 1/3 of a cup, maybe a little bit more of water. Then I'm going to add about 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of this Dixie Belle paint in the color called Manatee Gray. And I'm going to mix it up really well. Then using the syringe, I'm going to suck up my water and paint mixture and make little random squigglies all over the top of the buffet. I have a very detailed tutorial on how I do my faux marble technique. I will link that down below in the description. After leaving it to sit for about 15 minutes, I'm going to take my spray mister bottle and I'm going to mist over top of everything. Then using a heat gun, or if you don't have a heat gun, a blow dryer will work. I am going to blow that paint around and move it all around randomly on the top of the buffet. I want to allow some of the paint to dry, but not all of it. Some of the paint, I'm going to take a paper towel and tap and dab at it. This will remove some of the paint, but then it will redeposit the paint in other places to get that natural looking stone effect. Using a 1-coat polyurethane and a satin finish, I applied 3 coats to the top for a very durable finish. Using some black chalk paint, I am going to do some dry brushing on the inside areas, on my textured surface, as well as around the handles. I'm going to dip my paintbrush into my paint and then I'm going to tap off the excess. I need hardly no paint on my paintbrush. Then using my paintbrush, I brush over the areas I want to deposit that very small amount of paint onto. I used Varathane triple thick poly and I applied that to the base. This is a matte finish. I wanted to keep that same feel as a chalk paint with no sheen, so I chose this type of finish. I used a small artist brush and Rust-Oleum metallic accents and just highlighted the features on the drawer pulls. Off camera, I had my husband help me cut out a new back piece as well the bottoms for the inside of the cabinet doors, which were missing. So I'm gluing those all in using some Gorilla brand wood glue. To clean up the inside of the doors, the drawers, and the wood that I applied. I'm using this Howard's Restore Finish in the color called Walnut. I had a piece of wall paneling handy, so we cut that down to size, and that is what we used to replace the back piece on the buffet. And then finally it was finished. Let's have a quick look at the before we check out the final reveal. And here it is, blue and teal onto a more neutral palette. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video today. I hope you learned something. I hope you're inspired, and I hope you subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye.